Alpha Pickleball Podcast, where we slice through the noise to bring you the juiciest insights, strategies, and stories from the dynamic world of pickleball. Join us as we serve up engaging conversations with top players, coaches, and enthusiasts, giving you an ace perspective on all things pickleball. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just stepping onto the court, get ready for a volley of knowledge that'll elevate your game to alpha levels. Let the rallies begin.
All right, welcome again to the show. I'm your host, Tats. I'm really excited to have Jack Munro on today, pro pickleball player. And I'm really excited to dig into your background. So Jack, thank you for coming on the show.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I mean, you play left. I love having lefties on the show. I secretly want to rename the show some sort of lefty or something like that. But yeah, tell me how you got into pickleball. I think you were fairly young when you started.
Yeah. So I started when I was 10. I played baseball, threw my arm out pitching, and then on that off time started dinking around at the local country club with my dad. So once he was done playing, after like 2, 3 hours, he'd always dink with me for like 30 minutes or so, and then I got hooked immediately. I mean, it's just, as you can tell by the quick adoption, it's super easy to get hooked.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, you're hooked. And I guess I think it was an injury, I guess. Baseball, it got you out. Was it immediately sort of your kind of intention to start playing tournaments, or were you just playing the sport a lot?
Yeah, no, not at all. I fractured my rotator cuff pitching one weekend on baseball. And so while I was in the sling, it was just a sport I could play while I was obviously on the bench. So did that and then traveled to a few tournaments just for fun. It was nothing big. It wasn't intended to be anything big. And just over time, as I grew, played a couple tournaments. My first tournament was a 4-0 tournament, got a gold in that, and then slowly started getting bumped up to 4-5 tournaments, and then it just moved on from there and developed a good circle through there, whether it was competitively or socially. It was just fun to go to tournaments in general.
Yeah. And then I think at some point you took a break from pickleball.
Yeah, so after when I was around like 13 or so, I took a break for basketball for probably 4 or 5 years. So I played high school basketball, and after high school, after my senior season ended, and it was just the end of the road. So then I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go back and play pickleball. So I started playing again. Obviously, since it was a lot bigger, more coordinated, it was easier to pick up in general. And so I started probably around like a 5-0 again and started getting into some better games just because of my name back in the day and, the people that knew me back then. And so then I got back into it. I've been playing on tour for probably like a year and a half or so.
Yeah. And I mean, did you do anything sort of special in terms of sort of building your game up? Because when you take like a good chunk of time off and people around you are starting to play more and stuff like that, did you drill a lot more? Did you just play or did you play lots of tournaments? How did you get yourself up to the level you are now?
Well, yeah. So the cool part was during my break, I was playing another sport, which helped a lot. It helped basketball in specific, especially high school basketball, got me into shape pretty easy. So I went from being a little chub to actually, a freaking unit. I mean, I was in shape. We ran the track, and then we did weights and all of that stuff throughout the week. And then on weekends we traveled for tournaments. So it helped keep me into shape. And then after that, I mean, coming back to pickleball, it was a bit different now that you're obviously holding a racket and not shooting a ball in a hoop. But I mean, the coordination was still there, like passing a ball and hitting a ball are similar in some aspects. And then, uh, I had a decent background. So after, I'd probably say a couple months, then I got back into it and I started feeling good again. The first couple sessions were, tough, as you could imagine.
Sure, absolutely. And walk me through, you serve with your right hand and you play with your left. And how did that happen for you?
Yes. because I threw my arm out pitching, I started hitting at the country club with my left hand just while my right arm was in a sling. And so then after a few months, I took my sling off and it felt more comfortable to hit with my left hand. So just over time, I never picked a true favorite. I developed both. And so, I mean, my right arm, just because of throwing for, 7 years or so, it's a bit stronger. But since I developed my left arm, it has a bit more finesse and a bit more flexibility to do specific shots. But right now, I prefer my left, but I can play with my right. I'd probably say I'm like a 6'3" lefty and then a 5'5" righty. So yeah.
Wow. Two players in one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
awesome. And like when I guess it's so funny. I was asking around, what I should ask you, right? I saw Augie mentioned ask who he thinks are the top lefties in the game. That's what he told me to ask you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my. I mean, if you want, Augie's one of the top rising lefties, that's no doubt. Augie's pure consistency, which shows in obviously a couple of his results. And I mean, you get him the right partner and he's going to flourish. So, I mean, a lefty in general, I think has I'd rather have a 5'8" lefty than a 6'0" righty, to be completely honest, just because of their capabilities and what they can do compared to a higher level righty. So you can't speed up middle, you can't lob over the person in front of you, you can't do a lot of stuff that typically you could get away with. So, I mean, lefties are certainly super important. And speaking that, whatever, they're 10% of the population, they're rare in general. So it's you just don't naturally see them on the court as often. So, you know, I mean, that's why me and Augie obviously have a pretty unique advantage.
Yeah. And so being a left player, I mean, are there any specific considerations on placement and stuff like that and strategy? You play a very active game. I mean, I guess that's part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, so there's a lot of different considerations, and I think lefties have so many unique advantages. But I mean, and anything in general, from just being able to poach on the right side while your partner's running up and they hit a drive or a high third towards your partner, you're able to slide over and hit a forehand rather than a backhand, which then gives you more reach. Or, your partner gets lobbed, you can cover them rather than being forced to let the ball bounce because you're not going to hit a high backhand. Even simple things from a serve, your different spin, your spin spins a different direction. So if you're hitting a spin on the ad side of the court with a lefty forehand, cross court obviously, then it will go towards the person's backhand and is more likely to kick them off the court with their backhand, which is unique because a righty would then have to slice in order to do that compared to topspin. So there's a lot of different shots that you're able to create and get away with because you're obviously on the right side with your left hand.
Very cool. And then you also create a lot of content
Mhm.
online. Someone asked me, how do you come up with your funny, crazy shots? They said.
Yeah, yeah. It takes a lot of time to, just sitting around thinking of dumb stuff. And some stuff takes off, some stuff doesn't, which is obviously part of it. It's just, it's simply percentages. So, I'd probably say I have a cool couple shots, but obviously with those it comes, 5 shots that I tried to make cool but didn't turn out real. So in terms of my thought process with it, I just whenever I'm on a phone call or something, I swing a racket around my house, or I'm just always thinking about how I can turn my wrist or angle the paddle in order for me to, create something new or, something dumb at points. So that obviously I try to keep fans entertained when I'm on the court and stuff like that because it should be enjoyable for them to watch. But yeah, creating shots is certainly one of the things I take pride in. I enjoy it, and I just enjoy content in general. I mean, seriously, it's fun to sit down, watch your film, and not only learn from it, but create something. It's basically creating something out of nothing. Like you have a bunch of this raw footage, and then you're like, I want to add this audio, I'm going to add this text, I'm going to slow-mo it or add a hook, and then bang, it's actually like a piece of content.
Awesome. And I guess the content's helping you with is the content helping you with partnerships, sponsorships, all that stuff?
Of course, it basically quadruples your contract value or your value in general, or even what people perceive you as, because not only say if you're a pro player, not only would you have results, but you'd have 500,000 eyeballs a month, which is obviously a lot, and you can break down how much you could make off of that, and that's exactly what sponsors do. And I'm still not at the point where I'm, monetizing myself on social media like that much yet. Obviously, I find sponsors, but I just enjoy making content and I want to make sure that sponsors align with me. And I mean, yeah, that's sponsors obviously love it when you make content because then that gives them other platforms or other different ways in order for you to promote their product rather than you just placing wearing their paddle or, wearing their clothes or using their paddle. You can actually show it off on social media, which then garners hundreds of thousands of eyeballs.
Yeah, I just got this question. You're relatively young compared to many players that play. The question is, what's the best way for younger people to get noticed entering the pro game? I'm assuming social is one of them, but what other tips do you have of, young people entering and trying to make a move towards the pro game?
So there's a bunch of different avenues, but obviously I'll just break down content real quick just because that's what I've found personally. Um, you have to find a specific niche, and obviously the younger generation's even better than ever in terms of finding that and creating content that garners, a bunch of eyeballs. So definitely use social media to reach out to partners, to reach out to brands, to reach out to even literally the world is your oyster with it. You could also, what I recommend is actually talking to people in person. So when you're at these tournaments, don't put your bag in a corner, don't put your bag not in the pro tent or something like that, and actually go out of your way to talk to these pros. And granted, some of them, you always get, a bad couple here and there, but for the most part, these pros are in the same spot that you were, and so or were in the same spot that you are, and they're willing to help you out. They're willing to give you some advice, even if you dig deeper than with them in relationships, deeper than surface level, then you'll actually, get a connection here and there, and they'll help hook you up with partners or they'll give you a place to stay when you're in their city or stuff like that. So the ROI is granted, it's pretty intangible. It's certainly worth talking to as many players as possible. When you're in the Pro 10 or when you're near the Pro 10, or if you see pros or something like that, obviously respect their time when they're warming up or stuff like that. But when they're, in the Pro 10 or talking to people or, on their phone or anything like that, just go out of your way to talk to them. Be friendly. Don't expect anything out of it going into it. You don't want to be that guy that only takes and doesn't give.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's another really good way to get involved or to get noticed on the pro scene is to just have a genuine personality and go out of your way to talk to these guys.
Yeah, you talked about giving. As a pro, when people approach you, what sort of like let's say, pay it forward or giving is appreciated in terms of, what the pro sees? Because I know it's easy to want things like autographs or whatever, but what from your point of view, if someone approached you and say, "Hey, I want to do something or give value," what would those be things be?
So in terms like while some pros are, stubborn or stingy with, the amount of time that they give, non-pros, so like, just their fans or the audience or the viewers watching or whatever. For the most part, we're an open book. I mean, you can come up to us and just as long as you have a smile on your face or, you're not just trying to once again like receive something rather than give something. I mean, like we're all ears. We'd love to smile with you. At least I'm speaking for me and some of the pros that I know. We're willing to take photos, we're willing to sign autographs, we're willing to do all of this stuff. And I mean, as long as you approach us politely and you're courteous of all this stuff, then I mean, we're gonna give you the same back. So I mean, it's just a simple interaction. There's points where obviously like as soon as we're walking off the court or something, And some of us may be mad or something, then obviously it's not a good time. But for the most part, I mean, you could treat us like a normal person at points, like, come talk to us and we'll be friendly back as long as you are, we'll do the same.
Yeah, very cool. I had a question about lefty and mix. You said you were playing mix in this upcoming tournament. I mean, what do you do anything different? Like, stack, not stack, unwinding with female partner or whatnot. Do you have any sort of strategies that are unique to you being lefty?
So yeah, there are. The good part about being lefty and not only doubles or singles, but in specific mixed, is that she can drive and I can go up to the net and try to poach, or I can drive and she can go up to the net to poach, as long as we're driving in the right spots. And so, yeah, we do have to change our game plan. Honestly, a lot more than doubles, I would say. Mixed is the most I would change my game plan once you team up with the lefty. So most often the situation is that both girls are in front of each other and both guys are in front of each other, which basically just removes the idea of the guy speeding up to the girl because they're cross court. So if I were to speed up at the girl, I'd have to speed up cross court or middle, which is exactly where she is. It's tough for me to speed up into her body when that's obviously cross court. So you have to develop points a bit differently. You have to make sure that the guy's not sliding over too much, which is more so the girl's responsibility in this case, because they have to hit a cross court ball behind the guy. And when I get a dink, obviously I'll try my best to keep the guy honest, but since it's a straight up dink, it's a higher part of the net and I risk them earning. So yeah, you do have to change your game plan a little bit. It's tougher for girls to slice cross court. And they're so used to having so much space, especially in women's doubles, to hit the ball cross court. And then once you put a 6'2" guy with a decent flake cross court, they're going to be forced to have to hit the ball middle. And instead of slicing, rolling the ball a bit more and speeding up down the line, which is tough for girls who don't have enough practice with that. So yeah, you do need to, there is a learning curve for both girls, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Prep for tournament. What do you do? Days before, weeks before, do you do anything different?
Yeah, definitely watch film. Watch a lot of film of yourself, because I mean, if you're a typical 4-0 or 4-5, then you won't know who you play. Even if you get the draw early. So just watch film of yourself. You could also watch film of pros if you're like super, super technical. Um, but yeah, I carbo load. So like today I carbo loaded just to have a bunch of energy tomorrow, a bunch of pasta. And then drink a lot of water. You risk cramping if you don't drink a lot of water like 2, 3 days before. So make sure you do that as well. Um, I there's points where I focus on the tournament too much, and then there's points where I focus on the tournament like not at all until the morning of. So, I mean, as long as you have a decent headspace where your mind isn't, running around, then you'll be fine. I mean, just going into tournaments, understanding like as long as you play 85, 90% as good as the way you play in rec, you are going to do very well in your division.
Yeah. I mean, how do you approach partnerships? Are there specific things you look for in a partner in, let's say, gender roles?
For sure. So, I mean, I won't go, I mean, the list is really long. But yeah, there are some non-negotiables that, a typical partner should have. So, I mean, for me, in my case, keep in mind it varies person to person and, your play style and all of that. But mine's a two-handed backhand. I think speeding up two-ease down the middle as well as, down the line are super vital for the strategies that I want to implement. Um, having someone who can earny, because I like to set them up with a cross court ball, whether it's inside out or a simple two-e cross court. Definitely have them where they can earny. And then somebody with a decent roll drop. That's important because if someone hits a short return, then we're able to capitalize off of it with a good roll drop or a good drive. So yeah, that's why I've teamed up with the players that I have. That's why I'm playing PPA Austin with Roscoe Bellamy, because he's obviously a tall, lengthy, good left side guy who came from tennis, so obviously has a phenomenal forehand. He's long, so he's able to dictate the kitchen. And granted, he's not the most consistent yet. He obviously in 6 months to a year from now is going to be one of the top rising players, if not already. So I also like obviously taller players. It helps with reach in the kitchen, as you can tell. But yeah, so just someone like that. I mean, you could tell that I love playing with that simply due to my strategies.
Awesome.
Thanks for
That
tuning
makes
in to
sense.
the
I
Alpha
love it.
Pickleball Podcast with
Yeah, I
Tats.
think
If
I
you
mean
enjoyed today's
those are the
episode,
main
subscribe,
questions. I
rate,
mean, I
and
guess
connect with us
what
on
are your
social
thoughts
media.
on
Stay
playing lefty
alpha
lefty?
on the pickleball court.
I've never
Until our
tried it
next
just because
session.
every lefty, like I play rec with some lefties and we never play games together just because we'd rather play against each other. So um, I've never tried it. It would certainly be better than righty righty. However, um, However, the lefties likely won't know how to play the left side. So, lefties are specifically tailored since they're not as common, they're specifically tailored to stack and only play the right side. So not many lefties know how to play the left side. I struggle with the left side myself. And every lefty that I know will literally like their left side is kryptonite. Compared to a lot of these right side players, they'll play both sides. When they play rec, they will typically not stack unless they're, truly a left side guy. But they're not as likely to stack or anything like that. So they've developed both um, pretty well. But in lefty's case, it's not as easy to play the opposite side. So yeah, we definitely struggle.
Absolutely. Is there anything I haven't asked you, but you wanted to share?
Not at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. One lefty to the other. Appreciate your
Yeah.
insight, and I really appreciate you sharing some insights on play styles as well. That's very cool.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. So thank you.